Hello. Am I live? On YouTube, I mean? Seem to be live on Twitch. It says broadcast started for YouTube, but I don't see it. Maybe it's just delayed or something. Oh no. Oh no, I have it unlisted. Yeah, I forgot I'm supposed to change it to public. Let me see if I can change that on the fly. Should be able to change it. Okay. Okay. Now we should be visible on YouTube. But yeah, hopefully people still get notifications if they're signed up for that or whatever. Okay. A true fan wouldn't need a notification. That's well, how did you get here, man?
I didn't get a notification either.
Oh, you didn't get a notification on YouTube? Okay.
I didn't get it on, no, I didn't get it on Twitch.
Well, okay, but do you normally get one on YouTube?
Yeah, I just got it on YouTube.
You got it on YouTube?
Yeah, I got it on
Okay. Well, I can't change it on Twitch. The Twitch stream's been working the whole time. Okay. Let me link this stuff in the Discord. How's it going, Balverine? How's it going? Okay, I think it's all working. Where's my chat? How am I still so bad at streaming? Maybe I should just like play Derelict Star while waiting for people to roll in. Although I think it's impossible for me to play Derelict Star without spoiling. Just the stuff that I'm into at this point in Derelict Star is just so off the rails, deep shit. Is it good? Is Derelict Star good? It's really good. You got a rhythm browser game I can try? All right, let's do it. Feel free to link. I might already played it though. Is it the one with the seal? I played a rhythm browser game with the seal clapping recently. Is Saros good? We will find out very soon. Stay tuned. This is kind of loud. Is this... One second. Okay, Firefox is turned way down like I thought. It's just still really loud. Wait. I already won. Guys, I can close the game. I'm already number 1. Challenge number 2, only one person has played. Alright. Space, arrow keys, space dash. What am I... Did I... Wait, what? I don't know why that worked. What? Maybe I should read the instructions. Dash on the beat for a close range attack. Dash right before the beat to spread out your next attack. That's kind of interesting. You are incentivized to time it wrong, or to to rush or whatever. Summon and defeat all the enemies to beat the challenge. Yeah, dash on the beat for a close range attack. Dash right before the beat to spread out your next attack. I'm just trying to like understand. Well, I'm still number 1, so. So it's like a speed run, I guess. I'm confused about why it... Wasn't it lighting them up without me dashing sometimes? Yeah, there I didn't dash. I don't... Oh, does the ring... Oh, okay. It doesn't have to be inside the ring, it has to be on the ring. That's the main thing I wasn't understanding, I think. So I don't really understand the point of the dash if I don't have to, I'm doing damage without dashing. But I guess I do more. Hearts. So I really have to like precisely, I guess there's a lot less precision than it seems because your circle kind of moves. So like these hearts, you can move into it while the circle is still out there and the circle moves to catch them. So this thing that I'm trying and failing to... Was that a spread attack? That's what I was trying to do. I can't really tell when I'm doing a spread attack and when I'm doing a... keep my god, man. I keep like doing the one before. I keep like aiming for the one that's currently displayed and not the next one that's gonna... I think I'm dead. I don't understand this game, but it's cool. I could see myself playing more of this. I don't think I'm gonna play more of it right now though. Dash on the beat for a close range attack right before the beat to spread out your next attack. Let me just try to do that and see if there's a different visual cue or whatever. I can't. Oh, okay, there's a difference. Why did I just dash twice? Huh, you can dash twice somehow. I can just hold to dash twice. But the second one doesn't do an attack? Is that true? Yeah, I see the red ring. Okay, so yeah, I can dash into this guy. Oh, so the space... When I hit space, it's actually sending out a ring, even when I'm not dashing. That's interesting. Or no, that's just the ring that's coming out anyway. Never mind. Okay. Anyway, I might play more of this later. Hello, Bo Jovi. The green orb is your dashes. I need to make it bigger. Yeah, definitely took a minute to understand what was going on, but it's cool. Okay. How's it going, Perp? By the way, I think it's important to clear this up before I talk about this game.
Saros.
This is not how anyone is pronouncing this, man.
Saros.
Saros? That is not like... But apparently it's like a... You know, it's a term in astronomy.
Saros.
Saros. I will not be pronouncing it this way. I don't think... Like rhymes with hair loss. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just not doing that. Everyone is saying Saros, so I'm gonna say Saros. But I think that's funny. It's the same thing that happens with I think this happens with Atelier, right? There's a JRPG series called Atelier, and they pronounce it Atelier or something like that. They pronounce it some way that I would never. Yeah, just like Shin Megumi or whatever. What's that YouTube video? I think that's what I'm thinking of, the YouTube video where the old people are talking about Shin Megami Tensei and Kingdom Hearts 2. Bro, that's gonna be me in a few years. Anyway, yo, Mancha, thank you for the 2 months resub. I really appreciate the subs. Yeah, isn't it pronounced? Never mind. I guess I just know the French pronunciation for some reason, because
Atelier.
this is I think this is how they say it. I don't know. This is foreign to me.
Atelier.
This is foreign to me. Let's see, like let's hit up Merriam-Webster. I don't know if Merriam-Webster is more trustworthy than Google Talking Mouth person. This is it.
Atelier.
Atelier. Like that's a lot closer, but maybe is this an alternate pronunciation? Atelier? I don't know how to I don't really know how to read the phonetics. Like, I know that the line above the letter means, or above the vowel means that you just pronounce it like the vowel, right? Like if an O has the straight line above it, it's just pronounced O, and the A is just pronounced A. I think that's true. But in general, I don't know how to pronounce. I don't know how to read the. Do people not have now I don't know how to pronounce it. No, people don't have. No, artists are not real where I live. No, that's not true. I'm just probably not in artist circles, or they just don't call it that, or I don't know. Like I've only heard the word. I've like read it in books, you know. I don't know if I've ever heard the word in real life other than the name of the game. Maybe I probably have. Yeah, maybe I have at some point, but anyway, point is we're not pronouncing Saros correctly, and that's fine because I also don't. It's not me disrespecting the game by not pronouncing it correctly because I also don't pronounce syncopause correctly at all. So that's just something you're gonna have to deal with. Yeah, I didn't really have any. I forgot to pull something up. I didn't really have any news to talk about. Was there any interesting news to you guys this week in video games? I didn't write anything down. You know, I should be completely honest with you. Mostly, I've just been playing Derelict Star a lot and cryptic crosswords. I've been playing a lot of Derelict Star and cryptic crosswords and not looking at the news, which I recommend. Derelict Star is so good. Didn't I? Oh, here we go. I did want to talk about this. If there's no last call for news. Last call for news. An American pronouncing something wrong. Shocker. You can't like really pronounce it right. Like here's my thing with trying to pronounce Cinco Pausch or whatever. Like I'm not really pronouncing it right. Even if I like kind of even if I do my best, like it doesn't sound authentic, like right? Like someone from Portugal or Brazil or whatever would listen to me and think that I sound like an American trying to pronounce it. Like there's no winning. There's no winning here. So not that I'm saying I want things to have an American or an English title or whatever. Yeah, but I think it should be acceptable to just say it the way that it sounds. Like I don't speak every language. Already covered the Nintendo leaks. Not really in detail, but I'm not really a big Nintendo guy anymore, but we can look at that. Switch 2 leaks, or maybe I did talk about it. I'm kind of, oh my god, it's Nate the Hate. So where's like the actual where are like the actual rumors? Okay, rumor roundup. Maybe I care about some of this. So Switch 2 Star Fox game. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, when's the last time there was a Star Fox game? Okay, so I didn't play the Wii U Star Fox game. I'm inclined to like it because it sounds weird from what I've heard. But yeah, I haven't played a Star Fox game since Star Fox 64 when I was literally like 6. So I'm gonna get into that, Paul Allen. I'm going to get into that sort of topic in just a minute. But yeah, I don't know how much I can say about Star Fox, but like it is, I'm always interested in opportunities for mainstream, for big game publishers to put out stuff that is actually gamey, is actually like focused on action gameplay or puzzle gameplay or whatever. I am just interested to see how they handle that kind of thing. Like recently Donkey Kong Donkey Kong Bonanza or whatever. I was interested in the not the game itself, not the main game, but the DLC. Supposedly, I haven't played it, but supposedly the DLC for that is like, or one part of the DLC is like a kind of arcadey roguelike. Like it's a super proc gen arcade game, I guess. Like there's different challenges, and you want to like different levels, but it's super procedurally generated every time, and there's a scoring system, and you want to get the highest rank on every level. So it's at least somewhat arcadey, and with procedural generation, which is what I am usually into in my arcadey games. So I was interested in that, but the problem is you're supposed to beat the whole main game to unlock that first. I mean, maybe you can get a save file or whatever, but I wasn't about to like try to figure all that out. Also, I don't have a Switch 2 yet, so I was just looking into this. But they want you to beat the whole game to unlock that mode. And I really don't want to play like a 40-hour like nothing, no challenge game like that. And it seems like on the other end of the spectrum, like the people who do enjoy sitting through the 40 hours of Donkey Kong Bonanza main game, they don't want the arcadey thing. It seems like people were getting mad. Like the mainstream reception of this DLC was like, this is no value. Like, $20 for this, $20 for like something I can quote unquote beat in like 20 minutes by like going through each level and getting a D rank, So I don't think that, I think a new direction is needed. A new design direction is needed to make that kind of thing work, to make something that interests me for Nintendo or Sony. And this is, I'm going to get into this with Saros a little bit, but like, for these big publishers to make something that appeals to their mainstream audience and doesn't put them out of business, but also appeals to me, like appealing to me without going out of business immediately, is not easy. Unless you just do something that's so groundbreakingly new, which they're just not going to do that, right? That's like too experimental and risky for them. Like in theory, like if you do something that's so new that I've just never experienced it before, then you don't actually have to make it that hard, right? Because there's no legacy skill component, right? Like if when you're making a bullet hell like Returnal or Saros, or just like a relatively normal action game of any kind, I'm bringing a lot of legacy skill to the table, and because I've just played a million action games of like all different kinds, and I've learned general lessons that apply to new action games that I play. So they can't really like tune the difficulty so that it works for me while also working for a casual player. It just doesn't. The gap is too big. But if they, in theory, if they could come up with something so groundbreakingly original that like the difficulty is actually similar for me and a casual player, it still doesn't seem super likely, but in theory it's possible. But again, they're not going to do that because if anything that original is too risky for them to bet big money on with their big, multi-million-dollar budgets and everything. So anyway, so I think these games need something. If they want to appeal to me, they need a different approach. They need like something. I mean, like Slay the Spire has a decent solution with its ascensions, right? Like there's too many of them in the first game. 20 ascensions is too many. Apparently the second game only has 10, which is better. But this steadily increasing difficulty level so that if you're really good at the game, it doesn't take too long to get to a point where it's actually challenging. And usually in the early stages, it's fine for it to be a little bit easier because it's, you're still learning the game. So you need it to be a little bit easier if you want to win anyway. But eventually Slay the Spire gets quite hard. Like apparently people cannot, even the best players can't win 100% of the time. Which is probably good, probably good to balance the game that way. So yeah, something like that kind of solution, or just some way. I think dynamic difficulty, like broadly speaking, dynamic difficulty. So not just what people would normally think of as dynamic difficulty, but some way of dynamically making the game work for all different types of players and making it balanced for all different types of skill levels and stuff is one of the most important topics, if not the most important topic in games right now. Like I think mainstream games especially could just be so much better if the mainstream game industry figured this out. And I think I'll get into this again with Saros, but like I really think it matters. I really think it matters for them to appeal to people like me. Like I'm a pretty extreme example, but there's a pretty big hardcore audience who just doesn't care about AAA games anymore, because the gameplay just isn't challenging them. Yeah, I don't know. And like those are the most vocal people as well. Like some of the most vocal people on the internet are the people who are relatively hardcore. So surely as a publisher, you want those people on your side and you want those people speaking positively about your game. Like yeah, I would guess that they care to some degree about me. I might not be their main target audience, but I'm like a secondary target audience, and I think it would benefit them. Try to let you control the summoning rate so you can pass the challenge. Nice. Yeah, see stuff like that where basically the scoring system is incentivizing you to choose to take on more difficulty so that you can score better. That is my favorite. That's like my favorite way to do it, to do kind of quote unquote dynamic difficulty. And I've talked about that a lot with Post Void and with Syncopause. The scoring system in those games does a really good job of making you take on additional risk and challenge and stuff. Might be a reversal point. Silksong's difficulty was controversial. A reversal point in what way? Because I could see people responding to Silksong and saying like, we want all games to be easy again, like in 2014 or whatever. But to me, like the fact that a game like Silksong is too hard for so many people, and most mainstream games are too easy for so many people, that is all to me part of the argument for why we should make games, figure out more ways to make the same game work for everyone. But I haven't played Silksong yet. Waiting for the DLC on that one, but I'm looking forward to it. I liked Hollow Knight more than I expected to, actually. Even though I'm not a big run around hitting all the walls type of guy. That's very reductive, but I'm not normally into Metroidvanias. Anyway, Switch 2 Star Fox game, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with it at least. I don't know if it'll get me super on board, but yeah, between that and like Kirby Air Riders, I am more interested than I expected in potentially buying a Switch 2 at some point. And the Dusk Bloods, I'm very sus on that game, but the new FromSoft game, the Dusk Bloods, is apparently a Switch 2 exclusive and is doing something. I don't know if it's like really experimental, but it's at least experimental enough that I don't understand from the sales pitch or from the, few sentence description what the game is. So that interests me. Appealing to hardcore audience is too much of a commitment to mainstream publisher because appealing to casual player doesn't require devs to adhere to very strict standards. Yeah, I guess there's a truth to that. My instinct was to reject that and say that there is a different strict standard in mainstream games, in casual games. But I think you're right because there's so much less competition. Casual players, they really want the spectacle and the big budget and everything, which kind of makes it so that the vast majority of studios don't even have the money to possibly compete for that audience, which means that only a few games like that are going to come out per year. So, they kind of take what they can get. But I do think if there were more competition, they would have preferences. Casual players would have preferences and would not. For some reason, the game coming to mind is Forspoken. They would not be like, talking about how Forspoken is the GOAT or something. Whatever they're saying about the flavor of the month, the newest the newest AAA game at any given time. Okay, upcoming Ocarina of Time remake. Now, there's just no way this there's just no way this turns out well, right? I mean, I guess my hope is just that I was going to say my hope is that it's so different from the original that this anyone halfway serious sees that it's so different and goes back and just plays the original instead for their first experience with the game. But I kind of feel like that happened with Link's Awakening, right? Like Link's Awakening remake, it just looks completely different. I feel like, I don't know, but maybe I actually don't even know how different the gameplay is. But I at least would look at Link's Awakening remake, and if I hadn't played Link's Awakening, and I would say, this looks completely different. I'm gonna go play the original. Like the vibe is clearly completely different. But maybe it seems like maybe most people just look at Link's Awakening remake and say, that's cool, I'll play it. So really it's just kind of, I don't know. But it's not surprising, you know, the movie is coming out and this is like the most popular or the most beloved in some sense game in the franchise, and so of course they're gonna do that. I don't care that much at this point. I've just accepted that every game gets remade, and I'm not even really a big Ocarina of Time type of, you know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about Zelda anymore. But as a kid, I really loved Ocarina of Time. There's something very special about that game that I'm certain they're not going to capture in the remake. At least not fully capture. And I mean, I can't even identify what is special about that game. Like, that's the problem. Like, I don't think they can either, even if they really tried, and I don't think they're going to really try, because I think it's going to be a completely different team that didn't work on the original and doesn't remember like the deep thoughts behind the ideas that created the original. Yeah. Silk Song's difficulty being the wrong type of difficulty. Yeah, and I wonder, again, I think that my solution of supporting a wide range of difficulty levels and kind of slowly encouraging people to take on higher and higher difficulty levels, it kind of naturally gets people to appreciate more different types of difficulty. Like, if a game is hard for like let's just simplify dramatically and say that something like Slay the Spire is hard for like 4 different reasons. There's like 4 different categories of skill development in that game, that, you know, categories of skill that you can get better at that help you win more often and do better. Maybe beating the game on Ascension 1, like you can maybe you can beat the game on Ascension 1 while only really being okay at one of those one of those categories, and the other 3 are like super mediocre. But then as you get higher, you slowly have to be good at more and more of those categories and be better in all of the categories, and then by the end, like, you have to be good at all of them, right? By having you by encouraging you to spend so much time slowly getting better with the same game and getting more familiar with the same game, you're much more likely to, a relatively casual player, but any kind of player, is much more likely to eventually start to see the other angles that you can think about the game from, other types of skills that you can build. Those skills are more likely to develop automatically, even without thinking about it, if you just spend a lot of time with the same game, I think. Rather than, you know, hopping between a bunch of different games because they're either like really easy, or, you know, they're easy for you, or they're hard for you, or whatever. Like, you're not going to spend as long with those types of games as you would with something that's structured like Slay the Spire, where it gradually gets harder and harder. So I feel like I didn't explain that very well, but yeah, I basically think that it helps people being incentivized to spend a long time getting slowly better and better and taking on harder and harder challenges in the same game. That helps people develop not just one type of skill, but like totally different type of skills, and it helps them notice, gives them more time to notice more different types of skills. And just like, not just noticing by yourself, like if you play a game for 200 hours, you're going to be watching YouTube videos and like seeing, you know, something like Slay the Spire. You're going to watch the YouTube videos and see like what the best players are doing, and you're going to pick up tips from them, and you're going to get really into it in that kind of way. And then by the end of playing Slay the Spire for 300 hours or whatever, you're going to have a deeper understanding of what's possible in video games as a whole and what types of difficulty exist in video games, you know? Yeah, I really don't like the look of the 3DS remake of Ocarina of Time. I really don't. It's so cartoony. Navigation, puzzles, and combat were a lot easier in Link's Awakening remake. Unsurprising. Boss has ads, bad design is like almost the opposite of my idea of good boss design. Like I think ads are so useful. So useful. Because like, yeah, that's a whole different topic. I'm not going to open another massive can of worms right now. The indie shortcut nowadays is just use meta progression to create illusion of skill/progress increasing. Seems to be working for many games and what the larger audience wants. Yeah. And you can, my thing is you can still have that. Like, so think about, I'll get it. I've got Returnal on the brain and Saros. So like think about Returnal. Not going to spoil it. But the basic structure of it is that kind of roguelite meta progress. It's actually a bad example because it's surprisingly un-roguelitey in a lot of ways. But yeah, let's just talk about it in the abstract because I don't have a good example coming to mind. Like, you can have that normal meta progression structure for the first like 20 hours, right? Until you unlock everything. Maybe not even until you unlock everything, but until you like get through the main story or whatever. And then you have like another mode, or like now that you know how to get through the whole game, you unlock the like arcade mode where you have to go through the whole game in one go. And you know, then from that point onward, your stats are going to be solid, and then you can, from that point onward, you can have the escalating difficulty levels as you beat each one. You unlock the next one, like Slay the Spire or whatever. You know, like you can have that easing in that they like, and still also have the main thing that I'm talking about with escalating difficulty levels. And I think, yeah, I mean, then it still works for an ultra casual audience as well, who like really needs that meta progression stuff, and they can have a nice 20-hour game or whatever, and then they drop off, and the people who want to keep playing and get a lot more. But I guess you have to, you then have to frame it. You have to make sure you frame it so that people will take that extra post-game content seriously. Like, it's natural for most people to just drop off after seeing the credits. So maybe you don't show them the credits, you know. You can control how things are framed in your video game. There are ways to make it work, I think. But yeah, Caitlin says, I feel like meta progression is fine if it's lateral and making the game more nuanced without significantly changing the difficulty of the game. Yes, and it can even make it harder. And especially if it subtly makes it harder, people don't even notice. Like, I think Binding of Isaac does it really well, honestly. Like, I always really liked, like, that game. Okay, first of all, let's just get this fact out of the way. The Binding of Isaac has like 500 too many items, so it should not have as many items as it has. But even if it had way fewer items, what I'm about to say is still gonna be true, I think. The Binding of Isaac has a ton of items. It would just be too overwhelming to have them all unlocked at the beginning. I like, yeah, it would. Let's not say too overwhelming, but it would be pretty overwhelming. So I think it makes sense to have a lot of them unlocked slowly over time, especially a lot of the weirder ones that are like twists on, like certain items are such a major twist on your abilities and your your attacks and everything, like, and your movement and everything. They're just such major twists that you will not appreciate them if you get them as the first item in your first run. You just don't want that to happen as a designer. You want the surprise of getting a new item is so much stronger when you understand the baseline, right? When the baseline is established. And so there, for many reasons, for multiple reasons, you it makes sense to have that kind of unlocking items over time meta progression. But yeah, they mostly don't make the game, yeah, like you're saying, like a lot of them make the average, yeah, a lot of them make the average item worse. A lot of them are worse than average, and therefore make the overall pool worse. And then yeah, there's also everything is harder, which is like meta progression but like making the game harder. Which, yeah, I just think that's awesome. Like, and like they got away with it in Binding of Isaac, which is like one of the biggest indie games ever. Like, I don't know. I just think there's so much that's possible in difficulty and, like, you know, game structure, design, the format of a game. There's so much that's possible that hasn't really been tried or hasn't really been normalized, at least. And yeah, I think people really underestimate the degree to which you can appeal to the super hardcore players and the super casual players at the same time, with like basically no compromises. Like, yeah, with at least fewer compromises than you would expect. Like, yeah, I want to see some mainstream games that I care about. I really do, and that's why I talk about this stuff. Problem with difficulty in Souls-likes is that difficulty isn't intense or fast-paced, so there's a lot of tedium involved because it usually takes a while to get back into the action. That's something, and that's an angle to this that I'm not as confident about when I'm making these claims about, like, you can appeal to both types of players at the same time. This brings up an angle that I'm not as confident about. Like, do players actually like some kind of downtime? Because, like, one thing I'm going to talk about in Returnal is, like, there's really a lot of downtime between the intense fights, right? Even between like the normal, not very intense, not especially intense fights, there's like a lot of running around looting. Really a lot. And yeah. So it's the challenge is really uneven. Like, it's you look at an entire run of Returnal, and it's like huge sudden spikes of difficulty, and then most of the time you're just running around. So yeah, I definitely prefer a really consistent, you know, you can tell from what I was saying about Caramel Action. Like, I criticized even Caramel Action, which is a very, very low downtime game compared to most games, but I criticized it for making me redo the first loop without any additional difficulty, over the survival difficulty. Once I've already gotten good at the second loop, you know, once I'm good at the second loop, I want that harder difficulty all the time. So yeah, I really like that consistency of challenge and everything. Anyway, I wasn't even planning on talking about this. I'm ranting forever. Anything else? Splatoon Raiders. So I still haven't played Splatoon at all. I think I own Splatoon on the Wii U. Maybe I should play it. So yeah, don't know what to say about that. Rhythm Heaven. Now this is based. So they're like bringing back some dead franchises between like Star Fox and Rhythm Heaven, right? Rhythm Heaven is cool. I think it's one of the coolest, if not, it's not, probably not my favorite rhythm game ever. You know, it's not that deep or anything, but it's certainly a very cool rhythm game. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see if they do something new with that. Probably not doing something particularly new with that. Like, usually when you bring back a dead series after a long time, you want to just, I mean, maybe not you, the people in chat, or me, but publishers probably generally want to, like, bet on like a sure thing. You know, do a sure thing. Do the thing that everyone expects and wants from that franchise for the most part. Pikmin 4 Switch 2 Edition, Xenoblade 2 Switch 2 Edition, No new 3D Mario game. I don't know why this is even needs to be said. Like, the Mario team worked on Donkey Kong Bonanza, which like came out last year or something, so of course not. I mean, I guess a different studio could have made like a spin-off or something, but yeah, no like main, no big main team 3D Mario game, of course. Do we care about any of this? Super Metroid remake. Wait, I didn't hear about that. New Wario Land game. Yeah, I mean, this is maybe a little, in aggregate, probably more interesting than I would have expected from the next year or whatever of Nintendo. So I guess year or two. So, but can't say I'm like expecting to go to dive deep on any of these games or even buy a Switch 2 for any of these games, except honestly Duskbloods is still the one I'm most interested in, but I also still haven't played Elden Ring, so Seeing Rhythm Heaven makes me wish there was just more bits and bops. Is that something from Rhythm Heaven? I can't remember. Or is that something else entirely? Zero faith for Super Metroid remake. Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like that game, I guess this is true even of something like Ocarina of Time. Like, just the controls and stuff is it's just too unfamiliar and clunky. Oh, it's so clunky, right? It's for the normie gamers now. Like, they just can't take it. They just can't take original Ocarina of Time or original Super Metroid. Like, it has a certain feel to it, right? And yeah, and Super Metroid has like a frustratingness to it on the first playthrough. You fall into the water and get grabbed by those claws and stuff like that all the time. Like, it's a game inspired by it? Like, what, the Super Metroid thing? Oh, Bits and Bops is a game inspired by Rhythm Heaven. I see. Should I play it? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's that. Should I talk about this other thing I was going to talk about? This feels kind of off topic, whereas the Saros thing feels connected to what we've been talking about. So maybe I'll save this for another day. Although, you know what? This is connected. This is connected. So this is something I wrote a long time ago. And someone was talking about this on Twitter this week, and that's why it reminded me about it. And it reminded me, and when I came back to this, I realized my views on this have evolved at least a little bit. And I'm wondering if this seems insane to people or what. But I feel like people already don't understand where I'm coming from with this. So let me one second. Boom. Let me just read this and explain what I mean first. Okay, so on game reviews and the common practice of trying to make your reviews more objective. Reviewing things for some other hypothetical person is a big pet peeve of mine. The way you feel about anything you experience is inextricably linked to your own personal values and how your own brain works. But for games especially, your mindset and approach to a game tremendously affect your experience. Attempting to make your personal opinion into a generalized, objective opinion feels like an exercise in empathy, but is actually an exercise in ignorance. If I were to review a game positively, despite my misgivings about certain aspects, I would simply be ignoring my doubts and assuming they wouldn't be an issue for others. A good reviewer does the exact opposite. A good reviewer pays close attention to their doubts, makes no assumptions, and figures out why some aspects didn't work for them. Digging into your feelings in this way leads to unique insights, which ironically ends up producing reviews that are more valuable to everyone, not just those with similar taste. So can I get a can I get an amen? No. Can I get a just a gauge? Can I just gauge? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Like, I feel like being as subjective as possible in a game review generally makes sense. No shit. Thank you. I think, like, But yeah, when you now I feel like I have to defend the fact that I said it at all. When you see the mainstream games and game reviews discourse, like, first of all, everyone, all the professional all the professional reviewers are always talking about it. They're trying to sound objective, and they're afraid to say something about that they think was idiosyncratic about their experience or whatever. Yeah. And it's just useless. It produces useless reviews where I think actually now that I'm remembering this, Donkey has a video about game critics or whatever that is very funny and very true about, and a point that he makes in that game is that, you know, if you review games that way, what's the point? Because I could just read the back of the box instead, right? I could read if I want an objective description, I'm just going to read the back of the box. That'll at least make it sound more exciting, which is super true. Like, IGN reviews often sound like the back of the box, but more boring. But whereas, you know, if you figure out, if you dig deep into your particular experience, then you can figure out what actually makes games tick, what actually makes games good, what actually makes you enjoy games, and yeah, come away with a lot more interesting stuff to say. But I think I guess my evolution of my feelings on this is that this is still true for reviews by some definition of reviews, but more and more these days I am thinking about thinking about other people's experiences and trying. I think it's good as a game critic to have some idea, or at least be open to the possibility that a game that you don't like is still a good game. A game that you didn't enjoy is still a great game for some people. And like, Slay the Spire for me is an example of this. Like, I think Slay the Spire is a really, really good game. I think if I had played it at a certain time in my life, I would have really loved it. And if someone tells me they love Slay the Spire, I'm inclined to think that they have really good taste, even though I didn't really like it that much. And the reason, basically, this is almost like another layer of digging deep into your feelings, right? It's like, why did I have these, or it's just another way to dig into the feelings that you have about a game, right? Like, why did I have these feelings when clearly other people had these totally different feelings? And I think for me, with Slay the Spire, it's just that when I was like 8 or whatever, when I was like a kid, I played like hundreds, if not thousands of hours of like Yu-Gi-Oh! And like other, you know, I played some Magic, and there's probably other factors, but like, I played a lot of these like deck build. I spent a lot of time doing this deck building stuff and doing this, you know, you're drawing this many cards and you're forming strategies based on this, and you're thinking about how different cards fit into your deck and things like that. Well, that's not exactly what I'm saying, Jace. Although maybe that's an interesting other topic. But what I'm saying is just the basic strategic thinking of a game that's purely built around synergies. Like, so much of Slay the Spire, I would say the core engine of what makes Slay the Spire interesting as a game is about synergies, right? And that, to me, it is interesting gameplay, but it's a type of interesting gameplay that I have had enough of, I feel like, at this point in my life. At least I've had enough of as like the main engine of a game, right? Like, I don't know, that even feels that feels not nuanced enough. Like, there are probably other ways to do synergy focused gameplay that I would still love to see that I just haven't seen yet, that just haven't been made yet or whatever. But like, this particular card game style, like Slay the Spire, is very obviously pulling from Magic the Gathering and games like it. And so the fact that I played a lot of those games, like a ton, like very seriously, as a kid, from a very young age, like I remember it very clearly. I feel like I have gotten enough of that and want more of other things now. And so I don't, when I dig into my feelings on Slay the Spire, it's not that I think that the game is poorly designed, and I can come up with a very plausible explanation, a very likely explanation for why so many people love Slay the Spire, even though I don't. And so I think it's I can't speak with as much confidence. I have to talk about it in a slightly different way, but like I think it's a good game. Like I think there is a 99% chance that Slay the Spire is a great game by my value system, even though I can't say it's a great game by my taste. Does that make sense? Like if I were a different person who hadn't played 1,000 hours of Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, and you know, Slay the Spire were the first video game I played at age 20 something, like even if my value system and how I judge things and what types of things I like were exactly the same as it is now, I think I would love Slay the Spire. And so yeah, that's what's interesting to me, like the distinction between good game by my value system and game that I enjoy. You know, there's this gray area of talking about games. There's this gray area that I think is useful to dip into sometimes, even though people will say that you can't talk at all about games that you didn't personally like, you know. I think there's this gray area that makes sense to dip into where, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Yeah, taking into account who the review is for because he hates JRPGs. Yeah, that totally falls in line with what I'm describing, because like that's a necessary thing that you have to do if the reviews are going to be really subjective. And it actually becomes really, really, like reviews become so much more useful when you think of them that way. Like say you have like 3 different reviewers that you follow. Do you want them all to try to judge the game objectively, or do you want them all to judge from their own taste and then you come away with like if they judge all from their own taste and you watch all of them and you have a decent understanding of where they're all coming from and what types of games they like, you can say something like, okay, well, this guy likes it, but he seems to like it because of this, and that reminds me of this other game that he likes that I didn't like, whereas like this guy over here, he didn't like it. And you know, like you can come to a you just get a lot more information. If you know how to use that information, you get a lot more information. And it's just much more interesting. Like the reviews are much more interesting. I don't know. On higher ascensions, you're actually pushed away from solely prioritizing synergies because you just need some answer to certain problematic encounters. Yeah, you mean like the one where you have to kill the super high health guy in 3 turns total or whatever, or like, you know, there's certain enemies that you have to build for, even though even if it's like runs counter to your, yeah, that's interesting. There's kind of a force, a normalizing force that kind of counters the snowballiness. But yeah, I feel like that's not how you should balance that kind of game, maybe, but I don't know. A game I enjoy but don't like by my values. That's a great question. So the opposite of what I'm talking about, a game that I enjoy but don't like by my value system. I mean, I played hundreds of days of playtime of World of Warcraft, and I could probably boot it up right now and play another 100 days. Like, that game just hits my stupid monkey brain directly in a way that is life ruining. And I had to learn how to not let that happen and not play games that feel like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I would probably enjoy it less now, though, actually. I would, but certainly at points in my progression, in the progression of my taste over many years, there have been points where I enjoyed a game and didn't like it. I can't think of a more recent example, though. Generally, nowadays, what I like is when something is really interesting and you know, like I said, strikes me as strange in a particular way, and yeah, and that fits well into my value system. I guess maybe Void Stranger would be a more recent example. Like, that game really hooked me with its mysteries. Like, I love these games. I love the feeling of like getting deeper into the layers of a game, right? Peeling back the layers, and somehow there's always more and more, and you're kind of figuring out how they fit together. But it just kept failing with each layer that I got deeper into. It kept failing to, on a more micro level, give me a really strong puzzle or something, like give me really strong gameplay that really landed well for me personally. I know that it landed very differently for other people, and it's a game that lands very differently depending on what order you do certain things, and I feel like I did a really unfortunate order or like route through that whole game. So yeah, but for me personally, it really didn't land on a micro level. Like, there were a couple of moments in the game that really stand out as really special to me, and I played it for like 50 plus hours, like just being strung along by the mystery, and it felt manipulative in hindsight, right? Like, it felt like a carrot being dangled in front of my face, and even in the moment it felt like that to me, like, but I felt like I should see it through. And yeah, it just didn't feel worth it in hindsight. People on websites like Backlogged, Rate Your Music, Letterboxd, who refuse to give any classic game, film, album a somewhat negative or lukewarm rating, even if they admit in their reviews that they don't like it that much, just because they're important. Totally. Yeah, I wish... I just find it so much less interesting to say this work of art is so important historically. Like, we all know that. Like, it's almost back of the box tier boring for me to read why Ocarina of Time is an important game. Like, I guess they just say that because they don't know what else to say, though. Like, here's the problem. Like, people are really bad at, and this is not me like on my high horse, because I was really bad at this for a really long time. Like, I was putting myself out there doing game criticism, reviewing games and stuff like that for years before I really figured out how to be good at this. But people are really bad at at really getting to the heart of what makes a game good for them. And I feel like, you know, if you read the first part of my essay about Post Void, or if you read my 2025 Game of the Year list, hopefully, or my Game of the Year like write up, you know, hopefully you can understand what I'm saying, that like I am pinpointing a particular thing that this game and no other game does really well. I'm trying to very precisely describe it, and I just don't feel like I get that like almost anywhere else on the internet when I read about games, at least not in like, you know, long form or like serious critical writing. Like, sometimes you get it on like if you're hanging out in cool Discord servers and stuff, but you don't normally get it from quote unquote games criticism. And so yeah, people naturally just say whatever they can say, because it's hard to like talk about gameplay directly and precisely. So they'll just say like, yeah, it's an important game, blah blah blah. And I think that's connected. Like, because they don't have anything else to say, they start talking about how important it is, and then because they're talking about how important it is, they're like they're thinking about that, and so they're biased toward giving it a higher rating rather than just looking at their actual experience playing a game and rating it based on that. But yeah, I feel like I wish those websites were full of reviews of people actually rating based on their own experience, and that's what I do. I rate based on my own experience, and yeah, it would be so much more interesting to read and look at those kind of things, even just to look at the ratings. Like, I mostly don't review stuff on Backlogged and Glitchwave, but I feel like it's valuable for people to see how much I like this game and how much I like this game just on a pure boring out of 5 stars or out of 10 scale, you know? I feel like people get something out of that, just in the sense that like it's another data point. Like, I'm not going to spend time writing a review for every game I try, but like it's another data point for people who understand my taste to say like, okay, well, maybe I would or wouldn't like this as well. Surely a lot of the attempts at objectivity or just describing the package come from trying to compare all the facets of the game with its price. Like, is it worth the price? Well, that's definitely a factor. Like the price thing definitely it's definitely something that reviewers are thinking about. And I guess maybe this comes back to like the fact that has been, people have talked about this many times before, but like there's kind of a difference between a review and like a critique review versus like a critical essay about the thing or something like that. Like a review kind of has an implication of like you're thinking of it as a product, right? And so you're naturally inclined to think about the price. And I think that's kind of silly. I don't know. Maybe I've just never been in the audience for that kind of thing, but maybe there's some reason why people would want the price to be considered. It just feels to me like you could make that judgment for yourself based on the forcefulness of the review. Like, based on how forcefully the person recommends the game and how much they seem to enjoy the game, you can look at that and then you can look at the price and you can see for yourself, like, does it seem worth it to you? I don't know. It doesn't seem like a valuable thing to talk about because it's just so personal, right? Like how much money you have is very exactly. Yeah. People have vastly varying spending power. Yeah. It's just silly. Anyway, let's get to the fun part. Or the less fun part, depending on your perspective. What was I going to do here? Yeah, I think giving X out of 10 ratings, I think depending on how you think about it, I think it depends a lot on how you think about it, like your perspective on it. Like, I am literally just, what that means to me, what the number means to me is literally just how much I like it. Like, I'm not trying to consider anything else other than how much I like it. And to me, there is a spectrum of how much I like something from I really dislike it even. I actively dislike it, up through boring and whatever, didn't care for it, up through like, yeah, that was interesting, or like, I have some kind of fondness for this, but I didn't really... I also had a lot of complaints, up through like, this is something up all the way up to like, this is something that I think about all the time, like Syncopause and The Witness. Yeah. I think, yeah, I've never quite understood why people are so opposed to that. I feel like when people are so opposed, I'm not saying you're one of these people, but some people are just so critical of giving anything a rating. Like, they think it's anti-art to like put a number on something like that. And I don't know, I feel like that's kind of a mindset issue, but I could be wrong. I'm open to being convinced about that, but yeah, I like doing it. I think it's fun. So I get thirsty ranting for an hour. So reviewing Saros without playing it, okay? Well, where do I want to start here? Okay. So, more talk about game reviews. Anyone can review a game after playing it, that's level 1 game criticism. Reviewing a game after playing it. And the problem is, it's actually not good enough to do that. That's not enough to be a good game critic. Because at least if you play all types of games like I do, you've got a backlog a mile long. And the only way to deal with a backlog a mile long, other than someday dying with a backlog still a mile long, is to prune some of the mid games without playing them, right? Like, you just don't have time. I don't have time to try every game on my backlog. I just don't in my lifetime. Which means, you know, that implies that you have to somehow be able to judge games without ever playing them. And this is especially true for Saros, because Saros kind of costs $1,000. You know, for me at least. Like I don't care about any of these other PS5 exclusives, you know. They just raised the price of the PS5 Pro to $900 in the US. So, right, so you add the game, you add tax, and we're over $1,000 for one game, right? And and honestly, it costs more than that to me, because it costs the mental price. This is a serious thing, okay? It costs the mental price of owning an object that I hate. I don't know if anyone else understands this, but I just truly hate having this box on my desk that is completely redundant with the box that's under my desk, my computer, right? Which I already put a lot of time and money and energy into. Like, my computer can run video games just fine. Like, I just hate it. I just hate this redundancy. And yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Saros comes out on the 30th. Professional, quote unquote, professional reviews come out, I think, this Thursday, the 24th. But we're going to preempt all of that, and we're going to review it right now without even playing it. And if I say a single thing wrong, I will delete my channel forever. Okay? No, I maybe I'll if I'm really wrong about something, maybe I'll gift some subs or something like that. But more seriously, the point here is not to perfectly predict everything, right? It's just we want to use our time wisely. We want to. It's easy to. I'll make an apology video. Yeah. It's easy to fall into the hype and play a bunch of slop all the time when meanwhile there are tons of great games with zero marketing that you could be playing instead. And, you know, we would all like to be playing better games, hopefully. But on the other end, it's also easy to just take the stance of, oh, I'm never going to play AAA games, like they're all slop, whatever. Sometimes they're actually interesting. Sometimes when they are sufficiently gameplay focused, especially, they can be interesting. So yeah, we're going to figure out with a reasonable degree of confidence whether Saros is going to be worth $1,000 or not, or worth playing at all or not. And the way we're going to do that is by first looking at Returnal, because this seems to be a pretty direct follow-up to Returnal. Of course, it could have completely new ideas out of nowhere, right? Like Saros could be appealing in some totally surprising way that has nothing to do with what was interesting about Returnal, but most likely if it's going to appeal to me, it's going to be because of the same core gameplay, which is kind of the 3D bullet hell thing, right? Which, by the way, the 3D bullet hell is such an obvious premise. Like, in a universe where the mainstream actually cares about gameplay and pushing gameplay ideas at all, like 3D bullet hell would have happened and been developed and been thoroughly explored like 20 years ago, I feel like. But, you know, fact is 3D bullet hell is genuinely unique at this point in time, or like it hasn't been done really well yet as far as I know. So yeah, Returnal I think fell pretty far short of its potential as a 3D bullet hell. There are other aspects of it that are interesting and that you might like, but for me, I was hoping to get more of that. But you know, maybe that's just because it was their let's pull up some Returnal footage, by the way. You know, maybe it was just because it was their first time doing this new format and they're doing so much that was new to them. So yeah, maybe Saros could be more interesting. So what I did after I finished Returnal, both the main mode and arcade mode, by the way, I wrote down 8 areas for improvement that I feel like if Saros sufficiently addresses these 8 areas, I don't know if it'll be worth $1,000, but like we'll at least think about dropping $1,000 if they sufficiently address these 8 areas, okay? And these areas are basically all about emphasizing that core bullet hell appeal that I was talking about, like emphasizing it and like focusing on it and making the overall experience of the game more about that. And by the way, I'm not going to suggest anything, and this gets back to what I was saying about understanding how other people relate to games, even if you're mainly reviewing a game from your subjective perspective. Like, I'm not going to suggest anything that I think would actively alienate their actual target audience, like completely deleting the story or, completely deleting all permanent progression systems. Like, I might like those things, but I can understand that it would put them out of business if they did those things. And I would like for them to be able to keep making games. So I'm going to suggest things that I think would make the game significantly better for me and either be neutral or positive even for their main target audience, the more casual audience as well. And then after I suggest 8 things, we're going to go back and look at Saros. We're going to take a close look at the Saros previews and see what's up. See what we can say about Saros without playing it. All right. So yeah, and by the way, I do think I said this earlier, but I do think they want to appeal to me, right? I think Housemarque especially, of all AAA studios, would love to appeal to me specifically. They would love to appeal to the more hardcore audience because, like Nex Machina, like this is hero mode in, oh, sorry for the sound. Hero mode in Nex Machina. This is like intense hardcore action gameplay that like this is a hardcore arcade game straight up. And this was made by Housemarque a mere 9 years ago or something. So, there are definitely people there who care about the more hardcore audience. And also just in general, like Sony, like I was saying, Sony would love to have the most vocal players on the internet on their side, right? Which is the super hardcore people. So, yeah. Anyway, the list. So eight things that I think could be improved in Returnal to bring out the 3D bullet hell thing more. So the first thing is less Souls-like dodging and more actual bullet dodging. I mean, it's kind of obvious that this emphasizes the bullet hell appeal more if there's more bullet dodging, but there is surprisingly little like real bullet pattern dodging in Returnal. And a lot of the most challenging enemies, a lot of the kind of mid-boss type enemies, they're threatening mostly with their melee attacks. Like they're going to teleport close to you and then they're going to do a melee attack that you have to dodge. And those are some of the most high damage attacks in the game. Like some of those attacks will like delete your entire health pool in one hit, almost. So it's such an emphasis in the game. It feels like such an emphasis. This kind of Souls-like thing where you're just, dodging the melee attack animation from a big monster. And I really don't feel like that has to be in the game at all. But even besides that, like when it comes to the actual bullet dodging, there should be way more micro dodging. Like if you play a real, bullet hell shmup, there is really a lot of like fine movement, small movements weaving through big patterns. Whereas in Returnal, so much of the time you're like dodging the entire pattern. Like the pattern is coming at you in a cone and you can just walk around the entire cone. Or you can use your dash, which gives you invulnerability for a really long distance. You can just dash through the entire pattern, right? So yeah, I'm not being prescriptive with like exactly how they need to change these types of things in Saros, but in general, less Souls-like dodging, more bullet dodging. But, for example, maybe there can be some kind of limitation on the dash. I mean, there is a short cooldown, but it's really, really short, so it doesn't feel very limited. But, maybe there can be some kind of minor downside to the dash. Like after you dash, your damage output is temporarily lowered for like 5 seconds or something. Like something that makes you want to avoid dodging unless you really have to, but also doesn't bother the players who are just playing for survival very much, you know? It doesn't make them feel like, you know, like a 20% damage reduction is really all that's needed to make the high skill players want to try to micro dodge when they can. So that's point number one. Point number two, less looting, which I mentioned this earlier, but like this kind of divides into two categories. Like the first category is like the amount of time spent just running around picking stuff up. Like the rooms in Returnal are pretty big, and they're also very repetitive. Like there's only a handful of rooms in each area, like this unique rooms, and then the rooms are what makes it roguelite-ish is that the rooms are like connected in different orders every run. But the actual rooms are like you're going through the same, I don't know, 10 rooms per area, like main rooms, you know, main combat rooms. There's also the side rooms, but like there's a very limited number of rooms per area. And so you're navigating these same rooms over and over again. And once you've learned how to navigate them once, it's really easy, and it's just nothing gameplay. It's just filler to run through these rooms again, and pick up all the loot. And there's so much. There's like 10 items per room in these giant rooms, and you're like, okay, I gotta go like loop down here on the bottom level, and then I gotta loop back up, and you're just picking up all these like pebbles. You're picking up all these stupid pebbles and like compare. Like sometimes you gotta stop and compare. Like, and this gets into the other thing. So the first part is just less time running around looting, which also includes like running off to the side rooms, which often don't even have any action gameplay, and then back to the main room. Like just way less time of that, please. But then the second thing is like less time comparing when you're doing the looting. So one way that they could do this, well, okay, first of all, they should make it easier to see all of the information when you're comparing two different weapons, right? Like, I'm pretty sure in Returnal you have to go into the menu to see like the details of like what each of these like weapon modifiers really does. So yeah, they should make that a lot clearer and more instant and quicker. But also, I think this game would be served in general by something more like the Binding of Isaac build, like building your character in the Binding of Isaac throughout a run. It's much more like linear. Like you start here with the basic character, and then you're slowly accumulating more and more stuff in your build, and it mostly doesn't go away. You just add more and more stuff to it, right? And that has other benefits, but just for this benefit, like you're spending less time comparing the entirety of your build. Like in Returnal, when you're comparing two different weapons, it's like you're comparing your entire build. Like everything is on these weapons, and every room another weapon or two drops, and you have to stop and look and compare and see if this one's better. And you're comparing like 5 different things to 5 different things, all the different modifiers on the weapons. Whereas what I would like to see is something more like you lock in your weapons relatively early on in a run, and as the run goes on, you add more modifiers to them, and you pick, does this modifier or this other modifier suit my build more, or neither, And maybe sometimes you can remove things from your build, but in general, I think that just works better. First of all, it reduces the comparison time, but also it makes it so that you can make more intelligent decisions about your build, and it makes it so that you can get more comfortable within the span of a single run playing with that build. Like if your entire build is changing every 5 minutes, you just don't get used to that, and you don't naturally do. It's hard to do a good job taking advantage of that and playing around it. It's kind of like ADHD gameplay. And when the comparison point is Binding of Isaac, and I'm saying that Binding of Isaac is the non-ADHD gameplay, then I feel like you're definitely doing something wrong. So yeah, less looting. That's point number 2. Number 3, get to the more interesting weapons more quickly. And by that I mean I shouldn't have to unlock all of the coolest like weapon effects and artifacts and things like that. Like some cool stuff, some of the more interesting stuff should be available by default. I don't know why I'm not playing this anymore. Some of the more interesting stuff should be there by default, because when in Returnal, you kind of slowly, by playing the game a lot, you earn experience with the different weapons and unlock more stuff. And that really actually punishes the highest skill players. Like when you have to spend a lot of like currency to unlock stuff, to go through a skill tree or like whatever to get to the most interesting items, that really, it basically means, how do I put this? Like, if you're really good at the game, then unless you intentionally die earlier than you want to, you're going to get through most of the game with only the most boring stuff unlocked. By the time you finish the story, like you have barely touched the coolest stuff in the game because you just got through so much on those early runs. Whereas the people who are dying over and over again in the early game, they're unlocking more stuff every time they do a run. So they get to the cooler stuff faster. So yeah, I think there's not enough reason, especially in a sequel. Like Saros is basically a sequel to Returnal, and I think especially in a sequel, there's not much excuse for like having only boring stuff available right off the bat. Yeah. Number 4, some way related to what I was just saying about the weirder weapons and stuff. I think there needs to be some way to incentivize you better to commit to the weirder weapons and weirder items without killing the run. Like in Returnal, well, one way you could do this, for example, is just having 2 weapon slots. Like this is a very simple way to mitigate this problem significantly. If you just have 2 weapon slots instead of 1, that way, when you encounter a really weird weapon, the title card on the first death, I forgot about that. That way, when you encounter a really weird weapon, like in Returnal, when that happens, you're like, do I really want to risk this? Like, I could very easily lose my whole run because, the weirder weapons are much more likely to have strengths and weaknesses, right? They're much more likely to be good against this type of enemy, but not good against this type of enemy, good against little enemies, but not good against bosses, good in this area, but not good in this area. They're more likely to have significant downsides that can very easily get you killed. Whereas the more normal weapons are more reliable. So if you had 2 weapon slots, like that would incentivize me to pick up the weirder stuff a lot more often. It would make it so that I can commit to them without killing the run and worrying about hard counter enemies, because I can always just keep my regular assault rifle as a backup. So something like that, some way to, or you could just force me to commit to weird stuff, like Binding of Isaac does sometimes. Like, yeah. So yeah, that's number 4. Number 5. Maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but I would like somehow more connection between rooms. Like, if you think about a normal bullet hell shmup, like, there's a lot more flow through a level. Like, one wave of enemies kind of feeds into the next wave of enemies. If the first wave, like, shoots bullets in a particular way that kind of forces you into a corner, then that kind of changes how you interact with the next wave, because you can't necessarily get positioned immediately exactly the way, like, the previous bullets from the previous wave are often still on the screen and still affecting your decision making when the next wave shows up. And I would like you can't exactly do that kind of thing in something like Returnal, but for example, the adrenaline system in Returnal, Returnal has this system where you gain adrenaline when you get more kills and then you lose it when you take damage. And that stays between rooms, and so it kind of rewards you for playing well on longer time scales, but it doesn't actually change how you play in the fights. Like you're always wanting to avoid damage whether you get adrenaline or not. So that's not really what I'm talking about. I want some kind of connection between rooms that actually changes how you play. Like, for example, and this is the type of thing that would maybe alienate the audience, but I'll explain a way that you could make it work. But some kind of time sensitivity, right? Like the cool version of this maybe would be like the zone, quote unquote, the zone from Battle Royales, where there's just like a death zone that's expanding, right? And if there's like a zone that's following you from where you started from the beginning of the run to all the way to the boss, Like, this is not a normal roguelite with like a lot of branching paths. It's like Returnal's like fairly linear within each area. So you could do something like this, right, where there's a big wall of lava following you, and if you if you let it touch you, then it kills you instantly. It ends the run instantly, and so you're incentivized to move more quickly, which is maybe a good thing, and it's probably going to reduce the looting and stuff as well. But it's also good because you could have it so that if the enemies get touched by the wall of lava, then they just get teleported into the next room, right? And so that affects the next room in some kind of way, at least. And yeah, I don't know. You can imagine all kinds of stuff related to making the rooms connect to each other. But I wanted to talk about the timer thing a little bit more, because I do think that you could do it without alienating people. I think the average Returnal player might get too stressed out. People, even in something like Majora's Mask, people get so stressed out by timers in games. But I think you can do it in a way that's not alienating. Like, if you imagine, it's like an incentive, but it's not a requirement. Like, imagine late in the run, like 3/4 of the way through the run, you get to a door, or maybe even at the end of a run, you get to a door, and maybe it doesn't even explicitly tell you this is a timer thing, but it somehow suggests that, like, if you had gotten to this point without, or in a certain amount of time quickly enough, then you would be able to go in here and who knows what's behind the door. Maybe you get some extra rewards, or there's some extra challenge there or something. Like Binding of Isaac kind of does something like this. I'm pulling a lot from Binding of Isaac here, but which is kind of surprising, actually. It's not like Binding of Isaac is my favorite game of all time or anything, but it does a lot of interesting things. Anyway, yeah, so if you had some kind of thing like that, then you don't even have to put a timer on the screen, so it doesn't stress people out. And it feels super optional. It's like an incentive for the people who can handle it without stressing out the people who are struggling to survive. So yeah, something like that would be good. Point number, Spelunky has the ghost, true, but that doesn't do the connection between rooms thing that I was talking about. But yeah, if you imagine the Spelunky ghost, and then like if you don't do certain stuff in this room, then by the time you have to run away from the ghost, then different things happen. There's extra scary stuff happening on the next room. I don't know. You can imagine like enemies that are like laying eggs or something. And I don't know why I imagine eggs, but imagine there's an enemy that like lays eggs, and if you focus them first, like you're incentivized to focus the eggs first, even though they're not threatening right now, because if you don't focus them, then they're going to hatch and teleport to the next room and be a big scary extra threat in the next room. Like, like just stuff like that. These aren't great ideas, honestly, but thinking along those lines, I would like to see some kind of design work along those lines. Crisper movement is my point number 6. It just feels too AAA. Like there's a slow acceleration when you start walking, and then like there's a difference between like the normal running and the sprint. You have to like tap the L3 button to start sprinting, and there's like weird acceleration to that as well. And then like even worse, maybe even worse, like that's bad enough actually. If you're leaning into the micro dodging bullets like I was saying I wanted, that's kind of already pretty bad. But what's even worse, I think, maybe this isn't actually worse, but another bad thing is the air control. Like if you imagine this trying to become more of a hardcore, at least for the advanced players, and at least, later in the game, becoming a relatively hardcore, like avoidance, bullet dodging kind of game, you can kind of compare it to something like I Want to Be the Guy, right? Not maybe not the main I Want to Be the Guy as much, but like fan games, I Want to Be the Guy fan games are like some of the most hardcore avoidance, like bullet dodging games out there. And if you think about how the kid controls the character in your playable character in I Want to Be the Guy fan games, you have complete control over your left-right movement no matter what. Like no acceleration. You start up at full speed. You move at full speed no matter what. When you press, it's very predictable, very controllable. You can micro dodge through bullets in midair because of how much control you have over that. And Returnal really does not have that type of control, especially in midair. Like in midair, you have so much momentum because I don't know why. You have so much momentum, you can't just like, and especially like after you dash, you can't like then micro adjust after you dash, which I don't know, maybe that would be interesting after like 200 hours of playing the game and really getting used to the dash timings. But like, imagine you're dashing over some bullets and then you're going to have to land in between two dense waves of bullets precisely. Like, it feels really awkward when you don't have good air control. Whereas something like I Want to Be the Guy fan games, when you're dodging all the bullets in midair, it feels great. And yeah, I don't think this point is maybe not realistic. I don't necessarily expect them to fix this, but I think that would make a big difference for me. And then related, obviously I think they should just make the game harder in the late game. So this is point number 7. The late game needs to be harder. And I don't just mean a scoring system that incentivizes higher difficulty. And by the way, I'm not saying that the early game needs to be harder at all. I don't want to alienate the core audience. I think you can actually make the early game a good bit easier. Surprisingly, like you can make the early game quite a bit easier, and because this game, it's kind of weird. It's a kind of weird game to come to terms with. Like, yeah, I think probably the normal experience. This was certainly the experience for me, and I assume it's the experience for a lot of people. Like, the first area is significantly harder than the next couple areas, just because you are not used to the controls and everything yet, and it doesn't really ease you in the way that you might expect, and that you might expect it to. And so Mashy is saying the limited air dash is the only real thing that can checkmate the player, and that's an important point to address. So yeah, it is. I am generally pro checkmating the player. You know, I'm because when you're okay with checkmating the player, that means that you're incentivizing the player to think ahead, right? And plan ahead, and not just react to what's happening, but to think about your positioning and how that's affecting everything that's coming up. It's more thoughtful, right? When you're willing to checkmate the player, it creates more thoughtful gameplay. But I think that you can make those checkmates a different way. I mean, first of all, you can have non-dash checkmates. Like I was saying, you can disincentivize the dash. You can kind of minorly punish dashing so that you try to not dash most of the time. And so you can have checkmates where like you're trying to do it without dashing, and then you have to last resort dash. And it almost would feel like, ideally for a really good player, it would almost feel like bombing in a shmup when you dash. And so that would be cool. And so that's like a way of having checkmates that you can get out of. But yeah, also the main thing is I want the checkmates to be just from the bullet patterns, especially like when we get into this late game difficulty that I'm going to talk about. I want checkmates coming from just the bullet patterns. Like I don't want it to be so that you have to dash to get into a situation where you're at risk in that way. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, the late game needs to be harder for me to really, really care. And this gets back to something I've been saying a lot about, like the Slay the Spire ascensions. Like Slay the Spire kind of has the right idea where the game works for a really low skill player and a completely new player who hasn't touched the genre before. It's a nice level of challenge at the beginning, but if you're really good, if you have a lot of genre literacy, legacy skill, whatever you want to call it, like you can pretty quickly just, get through those early ascensions in Slay the Spire as you're learning the basics of the game. And then, pretty soon you'll be at a level of difficulty that's actually hard, no matter how good you are. And eventually that game gets incredibly hard. So, it could be something like that. But really just any way to make it hard in the post game, and not just hard in a scoring system way. Like not just hard if you want to like do all these arbitrary things like killing things in the air that give you extra score in Returnal. I don't remember exactly what all gives you score, but you want mandatory challenge, right? Like you want even an expert player to feel like their run is at risk, regularly. So yeah. And then last point, point number 8, less mini mapping. Like I want somehow for them to clarify the design around like threats surrounding you, right? Around the design for the situation where there are threats all around you and not just in front of you. Cause like, I don't know, it feels a bit fuzzy to me in Returnal. Like sometimes I get hit from stuff from the side that I feel like there was not a clear enough audio cue for, or like, so like, am I supposed to be like swinging the camera around all the time to see everything from all angles? Am I supposed to be really trying hard to like keep everything in front of me? I don't know. This is very broad. Like you could basically in Returnal, I feel like I have to look at the minimap regularly to make sure that things aren't coming at me from the side or from behind. And if I get into that situation, I'm just going to reposition, right? I'm just going to immediately reposition to a place where everything is more or less in front of me. And I think that's kind of the least interesting way to handle it. Like, you can imagine really interesting ways. Like this is almost like a mini map, but imagine like you have a second monitor and the second monitor is like a rear view mirror, right? And you can glance up at it and like see what's behind you at all times. Like you can do crazy stuff like that in theory. Like obviously they're not gonna do that in Saros, but like you could make a game like that and that would be a very interesting way of handling this problem. But you can also have interesting types of audio cues and like flashes from the sides of the screen to like see stuff that is behind you. You could even do the like Bayonetta thing, or like a lot of 3D action games do this, where like enemies are not going to attack you when they're off the screen, which is kind, right? That's a design decision that's kind to new players or to low level players, but it also adds interest and depth for higher level players. If you actually push the difficulty, it adds depth because you're actually managing the camera to keep certain things off screen so that they won't attack you right now, right? And yeah, another thing that's kind of weird about this surrounding threats thing, like they could just do more. I think probably the easiest thing to do is just have it more often. Like everything is just in front of you all the time. And when something is to the side, just have really clear audio or like flashing edges of the screen cues that you actually can dodge without looking at it. But one thing that would be really interesting that I came up with is like, imagine you have some kind of lock-on system where, so like obviously when you're aiming at an enemy, that in a shooter like this, when you're aiming at an enemy, that determines where the camera is pointed. So you can't aim at one enemy and then move the camera around to see all the threats, all the bullets coming from all the different directions that you might need to dodge at the same time. But so one thing that might be interesting is like have it so that you can shoot an enemy normally, but while you're shooting an enemy, you can also like press a button to like lock on and like auto aim so that, maybe it only does like 50% damage while you're doing that, but you can like lock on and then move the camera around any direction, and then you're still shooting at this enemy from the side of you or behind you or whatever. And that way you can like focus on the bullets a lot more. This gets back to what I was saying about like more bullet dodging, just like more micro. Like it would enable them to lean into the bullet hell aspect a lot more if you could move the camera around a lot more while still shooting, right? If you divorced the aiming and shooting from the camera movement to some degree, at least some of the time, that would be really cool. Okay, so those are my 8 points. That's my wish list for follow up to Returnal. Let's switch to taking a look at Saros. And let me just talk about how I do this, like, because this is something that I do all the time, right? Like I judge a game without playing it, and I decide whether it's going to be worth playing or not. And yeah, you have to be able to obviously, like, I don't know, there's a certain cutting through the hype. Like, I'm not gonna play the like audio from these like previews and stuff, but like when I was looking at them earlier when preparing for this, like there's just a certain feeling of hype that you get from watching these things that like it's easy to fall into the trap of like believing exactly what you're seeing is exactly what the game is going to feel like, and it's just not true. Like over time you learn how to predict what a game is actually going to be like, you know, what the rest of the game is going to be like other than what they're showing you, and imagine how you are actually going to feel about it. Yeah. So anyway, the first thing I noticed when I started looking into this is this right here. Does anyone know where I'm going with this? Gregory Loudon was the director on this game. Now, I did not know who Gregory Loudon was, but the first thing I did is looked at Returnal. He was not the director on Returnal. And he's a writer. Okay? Now, nothing against this guy. Could be a great guy. I mean, could be a gameplay genius. But generally speaking, this is a big red flag, right? Like, this, if we're trying to judge a game before it comes out, or without knowing really anything about it, this is a big red flag. Like, and I actually pulled up his IMDb as well. Writer on Returnal, visual effects on movies. Like this, we have no indication here. Again, could be a gameplay genius, but for all we know, this guy knows literally nothing about gameplay. Okay, like, you know, when you see like a game, when you're looking at who's directing a game, you want to see like someone who knows game design, and like, or like often people who are originally programmers end up being good game designers because they understand games at like a certain systemic level from programming that you know, they have the right way of thinking about games. Whereas a writer is just, sorry, I'm highlighting Harry Kruger. I meant to highlight Gregory Loudon here. Yeah, Harry Kruger is a gameplay guy, to be clear. Harry Kruger is a gameplay guy. He directed Nex Machina. Not criticizing that. This is Returnal. So yeah, back to Saros. Yeah, it's just typically the mindset of a writer and the skill set of a writer does not really lead to good gameplay. Okay. Anyway, that's just the first thing I noticed. But let's give the game a chance with the footage. Let's give it a chance to impress us. So we're seeing, I am on full resolution. Okay. We're seeing some gameplay here. I'm just going to go straight through my 8 points and just see how it did, okay? So the first point was less Souls-like dodging and more bullet dodging. Now, you might immediately notice that you have a shield in this game. You know, I was talking about how the dash is kind of a problem. Like, the dash kind of presents a problem in the design where it's a little bit too powerful, and I want you to have to be able to micro more, and the dash kind of destroys that sometimes, or very often. The fact that you can just dash through everything. And the shield is right, it seems like yet another thing. It seems like yet another thing that lets you just nullify the gameplay, the bullet dodging gameplay, by just absorbing everything with your shield. Now, it could be interesting. The shielding could be interesting in its own right. It seems like there's some kind of mechanic where absorbing different colors of bullets does different things, and sometimes you might not want to absorb different colors of bullets and stuff like that. And that could get interesting. We'll have to see how it develops, you know, later in the game to really know if they push it. And if they push the difficulty to a certain level, then presumably that will become interesting in its own way. But it's sus, at least, right? Like, you're constantly using the shield in the same way that you're constantly using the dash, and that at least makes me sus. Another, I mean, I did see some things that looked more micro-y, but it also kind of seemed like you can just dodge through everything still. So yeah, for the first point, I'm gonna say mostly no, mostly a fail on this based on what I'm seeing. Second point, less looting. So here, this is actually a big win. If you look at the mini map, there is a lot less junk. You know, the running around picking up pebbles seems like a lot less of a factor here than it was in Returnal. There's usually like 1 or 2 items per room, and the rooms seem simpler to navigate. And yeah, so I think it'll be significantly less time looting overall, even if nothing else incentivizes you to move faster or anything like that. I think this is a big win, actually. I did see some like uninteresting weapon comparing and stuff, but they did in the weapon comparisons. I'd noticed a button to, I don't know if we can find any weapon comparing here, but there was a button that's like see details or comparison details or something. So it seems like you're not going to have to go into the menu to compare weapons at least. So that's another factor that's going to, you know, create less time spent looting. So that's great. Getting to the point number 3, getting to the more interesting weapons more quickly. Like, you shouldn't have to slowly unlock all the coolest items over the course of like many runs. You should have some cool ones at the beginning, some of the weirder ones. It seems like no, because they showed like a skill tree between runs. There seems to be even more like development between runs where you have to spend your currency. It seems like even more like a normal roguelite in that kind of way, which I don't really have a problem with that, honestly, the way that a lot of people have problems with meta progression. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they're doing any better on like giving you more interesting tools to play with, items and everything from the get-go. So I'm gonna assume no on that one. The 2 weapon slots suggestion, or like some other way of like encouraging you to commit to weird stuff without just killing the run, I think is also a no. I'm just not seeing anything. I'm just not seeing anything that's different in that regard from what I'm seeing. If one of you guys sees something like that, then let me know. But yeah. Number 5, more connection between rooms. They still have the adrenaline system. It seems to work exactly the same. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything related to time pressure and stuff like that. I mean, who knows if it shows up later, but I think it's probably safe to assume no for now. The crisper movement, I wasn't actually 100% sure. It seems smoother to me. Like he's cutting different directions here, and it seems a little bit smoother. It doesn't seem like totally full control, I want to be the guy style like I was talking about, but it actually does seem smoother. Yeah, I just want to have to like, you know, slightly tilt the stick to like micro adjust my position to dodge between bullets, and then like, you know, and I just wanted to feel super snappy and not have acceleration. But yeah, it seems like a little better in that regard. I don't think the air control is better, but maybe it's a little bit better. So we'll give them like half points for that. And then the late game harder, we can't really know about that, obviously. Like maybe they're trying to keep it under wraps, but probably not yet is my conclusion. Like in Returnal, they added the arcade mode after the game came out, so you know, they could do something like that here and add like Slay the Spire Ascension mode or whatever. They could add something like that after the game comes out, but I assume if it were in the game by default, they would probably have talked about it by now, and I couldn't find anything like that. So yeah, for now, I think it's a no. And then less mini mapping, more challenge in front of you, you know, somehow clarifying the design around the surrounding enemies. No? I mean, so, you know, we just saw some like boss footage. Like this is the kind of stuff I want more of, right? Like the boss fights were the highlight of Returnal. Easily. Like, because you get stuff like this. You get the actual 3D bullet dodging in a focused way for a few minutes. But then the entire rest of the game is like, enemies with dinky patterns surrounding you, and you just have to like get out of the way and then like get to a place where they're all in front of you, and then you can dodge their dinky patterns really easily, and it's just boring. Or it's like the Souls-like dodging thing. So yeah, it doesn't really seem very different in that regard. It seems like most of the game is still not focused on these big, cool bullet patterns in that kind of way like the boss fights are. No rear view mirror. No second monitor rear view mirror. So, conclusion. Overall, I am not seeing a reason to jump in right now. Certainly not for $1,000. Certainly not. I don't see $1,000 worth of reasons. Oh, by the way, something that is interesting here. I mentioned that I had this idea about like a lock-on aim feature that lets you like look around you more to look at the bullets more while you still target the same enemy and shoot at the same enemy who's in a different direction. They kind of did something almost like this. Like they made the aiming like less of a factor. So like, you can see the reticle like snapping hard to the targets here. It's not like normal auto aim. It's like if you're aiming anywhere in this area, it's going to snap to this enemy, right? And I think that actually could be a good thing for reasons related to what I was saying. That looks kind of cool. That little dodging moment right there. Yeah, for reasons related to that, I think that could maybe be a good thing. Like you don't have to focus as much on the aiming, so you can focus more on the bullet dodging. But I don't think it's really going to enable you. It's not strong enough to enable you to look a completely different direction, right? But maybe it might let you look up a little bit more. I don't know. It's maybe something extra to manage that's like interesting to manage, even if it's a very minor factor. So I don't know. That's cool. But yeah, overall, not $1,000 worth of reasons to play this right now. Maybe in another 5 years, another exclusive PS or PlayStation game will come out, even if it's PlayStation 6 by that point. And maybe I'll try Saros then. But right now, I feel pretty confident that this does not need to be high on my list. But who knows? Like another. Right, like I said, judging a game like this before you play it is part of being a good game critic, or just someone who has good taste in games in general. But like, it's also important to have good sources of recommendations, right? Have people and trust who are going to play these games. Like I have a network of people whose recommendations I trust. Some of them are going to play Saros at some point. So, even if I'm wrong here, if there is some secretly amazing stuff in here that we're not seeing, I will find out at some point, and I will get around to playing it. So, play PS6 Pro for $1,500. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know if that's. That could be real. That's what I'm saying. I could see it happening. So anyway, let's go back and look at the comments I missed. Hideo Kojima wrote about how he goes to bookstores in free time to pick out a book, judging it by the cover to evaluate how his intuitive taste is. It's kind of based. Judging things by their cover. It does, like the cover of something does say something about it, right? It says something. It says something about it. You can't completely dismiss something by its cover, but you can judge it to some degree. But yeah, this looks a little bit too Returnal again. Some things are interesting, but yeah, just not interesting enough for me to really want to jump in right now. Isaac does have a really fascinating tension with all of its active items, constantly thinking about whether you want to switch or not. Yeah. This is not... Returnal is not like that. If there were only one weapon slot in Returnal and you had to do some kind of quick, intuitive, interesting thinking about that, when you're offered another weapon, that would be one thing, and I would talk about that one way. But I did not talk about it that way because it's not like that. It's mainly just comparing stats and do do I want to risk taking this really weird weapon or not? Notably, the active item is not your main source of damage, right? That's one factor. I don't know if that's, yeah. There's a lot of differences between the active items in Isaac and the weapons in Returnal. What's Boneworks? Is that a VR game? I'm guessing this was relevant because, okay, I was thinking about this. with VR as well. I didn't mention this, but like, yeah, in VR, obviously you can look one way and aim another way. At least I assume you can, or you could design the game so that would work, right? Because your head movement, yeah. That's super interesting to me, but I do think there are ways to make it work at least a lot better than Returnal. Ways to make it work a lot better without VR. But yeah, I love that. I haven't really played much VR, but being able to flip a light switch without looking at it, nice. Yeah, so Harry Kruger left. Do you know, or does anyone know about other people leaving? I didn't look into in detail like how many people left the studio, but I get the sense that a lot of people are still there. But you know, the guy who made Sectori, right? Sectori was I'm just gonna say one of the best games. I'm not gonna say one of my favorite. I'm gonna say it was one of the best games of last year. I think it's far and away the best twin stick shooter ever made, and that was made by an ex Housemarque guy. But I think he left long before. I think he left Housemarque like before Nex Machina, maybe, or during the Nex Machina development. Not sure. Yeah. So I guess we mostly agree with my assessment here.
Use of Ajran.
Jesus, jump scared. We mostly agree with my assessments here. Or you know, maybe you guys feel differently about Returnal than I do. I know a lot of people do really like Returnal. Wasn't it on that Matthew Matosis list we were looking at? His favorite games of the 2020s so far. But again, Matthew Matosis has been like developing. He's more a game developer. Since the 2020s started, Matthew Matosis has been more a game developer than a game critic. And he's seemingly spent a lot of time getting into game development. So like, he probably hasn't played as many games in the 2020s as he did in the 2010s, or even close. So I do question, I didn't say this when we were talking about that list originally, but like, I do question how much it really means for a game to be in his top 10 of the 2020s so far. But still, it says something that he listed it there. It is kind of, I know he also really likes treasure games, and I think Returnal has a weirdly treasure appeal to it. And this gets back to what I was saying, where it doesn't really feel like a roguelite. It feels more like an arcade game, but it almost doesn't really feel like an arcade game either. Like, I guess if you replay it, it would feel more like an arcade game, but playing through for the first time, it almost just feels like a level-based game with like different, you know, challenges in each area. And going through it the first time, it feels a lot like a treasure game where there's these like big twists and surprises, and some of them are like kind of mechanical gameplay type of stuff. Some of them are story, but you know, like one of the bosses has like a really big twist that really felt like a treasure moment, or like a Kamiya moment. So yeah, it's not at all surprising that Matthew Matosis likes it a lot. Treasure games are so refined though, yeah. Yeah, I'm just talking about the type of game that it is, or the things that are cool about it. It has these cool set piece-ish moments almost, but like not like how we think of a set piece now, but more like an arcadey set piece. Yeah, I don't know. To make sure I get someone in my network to play Saros and report if it's actually good to me, I make sure to inform them that it's just a new Returnal that costs $1,000. I can't. You know what? If people trust me enough to outweigh that their trust in me and my opinion outweighs all the hype and marketing and stuff. Like, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just not knowing forever if Saros is interesting in some secret way or not. Like, I would love for everyone to not play games that look mid. I would love to live in a world where people do such a good job avoiding games that look mid that I have to worry about genuinely missing something that sold millions of copies. I don't know. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. Make a friend and just borrow it. I actually was thinking about just like asking on Nextdoor or whatever people use nowadays. Like, can I just borrow someone's PS5 for Saros? Housemark videos with their devs. They talk about Treasure and Cave a lot. I guess that's not too surprising, but it's not surprising that there's some influence there, but to talk about them a lot is kind of another level of yeah, that's cool. Only old people use Nextdoor? Damn. You got me. See, like this boss, there was some cool stuff where like bullets were traveling along the ground that I saw, by the way. One of the most interesting things I saw in here was like bullets that travel along the ground, and then when they get to like stairs, they're like going up the stairs. I don't know if they would go up like a sheer wall, but they were at least like, going up the stairs and kind of moving in a weird looking way because they were, staying on the ground. Like, that's interesting. I don't know. There's just so much that you can do with the 3D bullet hell that I just feel like Returnal is not even coming close to starting to explore that. Yeah. As much as it had its moments. I'm not saying I hate Returnal or anything. Just that, yeah. All right. I think that's the stream. By the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, but we are planning on not next Saturday, but 2 Saturdays from now, so 2 weeks from now. So I've been playing Derelict Star a lot. It is a massive game. It's a platformer. It's kind of I called it a precision platformer, and Caitlin said that we should call it a technical platformer instead. Was that the word you used? Technical platformer? Anyway, it's some kind of platformer with a really intricate movement system with lots of interesting tricks and challenging level design, and there's a little bit of exploration and stuff. It's kind of got this. Let me just show the freaking trailer. What am I doing? I have a whole stream here. So yeah, this is Derelict Star. This is going to be a contender for Game of the Year for me. It is a really, really special game. Yeah, it's difficult, but most of the optional stuff is really, really difficult. But I still recommend this to like most people. Like if you've played like a Celeste or something, you can handle this, or at least handle like the main game, And yeah, there's just so much cool, tricky little stuff in here, and so many cool mechanics, which all have their own little tricky twists and stuff. I don't know. It's a great game. It's a really great game. And Gate, the creator of this game, has been hanging out in the Discord and has agreed to make a guest appearance on the stream. So 2 weeks from now will be a Derelict Star discussion. The whole stream is going to be a Derelict Star discussion with Gate. And so yeah, if you want to play, if you are interested in this game, I recommend playing it right now so that you can participate in that. Maybe suggest a question for me to ask, or just understand what the hell we're talking about. So yeah, excited about that. You should really play this. It's like $10 or something, and like I've been playing it for 20 something hours. It's like so insanely vast. And yeah, it's great. You're reviewing Derelict Star without playing it? No! Don't, no. Wait, there was a... I think I missed something on this screen, anyway. The 3 white qubits in the green area. I'm not sure. You're not talking about the green area with the keys, or are you joking and you're talking about the one that we were talking about earlier? Or are we talking about the other green area? Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah. I think I have like half the qubits. Anyway, buy this game, play it. We will be talking about it in 2 weeks. I don't know what we're doing next week, but something very cool and good. I gotta get my I gotta edit the Saros review and get it out before the actual reviews before the game come out. The actual professional reviews that are also before the game actually comes out. Go Arc next week. Arc Raiders? Or Cryptic Crossword. Could do Cryptic Crossword. I don't know. I have like a massive list of things that I could talk about. Like the list really ballooned really quickly. There's just so many things that I could talk about. All right. Join the Discord if you have not already. I know most of the names I'm seeing right now have already joined, but there's cool discussion happening there and whatever. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.